Welcome to We Talk or whatever freaking calling
The
this
potty
thing.
heads. The potty talk. The pod talk. Pod talk. Pod talk. Coffee talk.
We literally have. What if pod talk? I don't know that I hate that.
I'm sure someone has taken that.
At the end of the day, I think that's what. Here's what we've been having issues trying to settle on a name. We like names, and then we start looking up names, and we realize people have these names. At the end of the day, like I feel like who cares? It's just
we've
a
circled
name.
the airport 1,000 times, and we can't figure out where to land. So we're just gonna keep circling.
Well-
what if we call something new each week?
Oh my gosh!
Like 1 week it's We Talk, 1 week it's like Pod Talk.
The unnamed.
Yes, the unnamed. Ooh,
unnamed.
the unnamed podcast.
Where are we going?
A voice for everyone.
Ooh.
The unnamed.
The unnamed.
That sounds cool.
The voice,
all right.
a
like
voice
a
for
really
everyone.
The unnamed.
awesome superhero.
Yeah.
Unnamed.
We're so cool.
The voice
Having
for
it.
everyone.
I like it.
It's cute. You guys are like in sync.
Okay.
Well, you
You're
even read
very
that.
scary.
You even didn't quote, but that was your scripture you shared the other night on 31 Days of Wisdom, right? Give a voice to the voiceless.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, see?
Hey.
Like
Wow.
it. Look at that. It's
Yeah.
coming back around.
The podcast is officially called The Unnamed.
Maybe until
You potty heads.
until next
Yeah.
week. And
Until we
it's-
start
we
talking
found
Here's
out
the
it was
thing.
taken.
Just come back. You know, you don't need a name. You don't need to know what it is, right? You're just gonna be here because you like hanging out with us.
Yeah. We're so glad all you potty heads have joined us. Remember what we always say around here, I'd rather be a potty head than a potty mouth. So, hey, that's
I was
all
like-
you guys.
For a second, I was like, "What do we say?"
That's our
I know,
catchphrase.
it's like,
That's our
what is the
catchphrase.
catchphrase?
Oh my gosh,
Just
my mic
waiting
is
for
all
a
jacked
flush or
up.
something.
so good.
All right, so here's my question to you guys to start
Okay.
the podcast.
All right, give it to me.
Okay, you are a dog owner. We
I
used to
am.
have dogs, so you're gonna have to like act like you don't have any dogs. And
Okay,
you're
that's gonna be very hard to do, but
you're-
okay.
You're
go
getting
ahead.
a brand new dog. Do you feel like dogs should have people names, or are dogs an opportunity to get crazy?
Okay, I actually do have an opinion about this without even. I mean, I do have dogs, so I have two dogs, and technically they both do have human names.
Yeah.
So I have a girl dog. She's our senior. She's our old girl. Like
Old girl.
She's an old lady. We call her our old lady. She's 13, like
Yeah.
going on 14 this year. So we've had her. Oh no, wait, she'll be 13 this year. We've had her our entire time that we've been in a relationship.
Wow.
Like Kylene adopted her before we technically started dating, but we were both interested in one another. So
When she passes, are y'all gonna take her to the taxidermist? I mean,
no.
I mean that's kind of like, you
That'd
know
be
what
like
I mean?
that'd be really
That would be
weird. I
so
don't know that I.
weird.
It'd be like Scrubs.
Scrubs.
Yeah, like where there's that weird.
Rowdy.
Rowdy, no.
It's rowdy.
Rowdy, yeah. Just put him by the door.
Oh my gosh.
Someone walks in.
It'd be
You'd like,
so
Layla, no.
creepy. I don't know that I could do it. Like, I think it'd be too sad for me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but like I could probably. I'll keep her collar around, maybe. You know, like hang that around somewhere.
Put in a frame. I mean, just
Maybe,
because she's
probably.
been with you guys the whole time, you
yeah,
should like have some
She's
sort
our,
of memento.
She's our relationship dog. So when she dies, hopefully
The
we
relationship-
Oh my God.
I'm joking. I'm
Oh my
joking.
gosh.
No.
Sorry, Kylene, we're
Oh
done.
my gosh, no.
gosh.
Well, what's crazy is so her parents bought all this property in Athens this year, and so her sister's dog just passed away, and they buried their dog there.
Oh, that's sweet.
And so we've decided that there's this place called Puppy Hill.
Yay,
We've deemed
that's
it.
actually
so,
cool.
So our dog Layla will be buried there. We've already decided. So we
that's
can,
sweet.
you know, go.
Well,
there
we've
for that.
talked about this before, and we can get Rachel's opinion. Remember the dog question. We'll
Yeah,
circle
yeah, I'm
back
coming
to
back.
it. But when Cody dies, he wants to be turned into a tree.
Well, I don't want to become a tree, but
Tell me how that works.
what I want
It's actually
is
really cool.
No,
I've never heard
I
of it.
understand what
right.
you're saying.
I want either one of two things. Either my body is just compacted into this bag, like just violently shoved into a bag, with a big tree seed shoved in there with me, and then I'm buried into the ground. And then well, I love weeping willows, so turn me into at least something like that'd be really cool.
That
So
would be
make
cool.
like my body is just surrounded by this weeping willow seed, and then I become this tree in theory.
That's cool.
Or I'm cremated and my ashes are just put into a bag with this tree. I feel like the violently shoved into a bag sounds more fun.
Yeah, it's like some
intense.
Dexter stuff
Yeah.
going on there.
Intense,
You know what I mean?
But I feel like that's cooler than a grave, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's, well, what would be really sad is if somebody cuts down the tree.
You died twice.
But I feel like that'd be cool. It's like your body gives back to the world.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a good like landmark. Like if your
Right.
kids like or something, you know. How about you? Okay, so first the dog
Yeah,
question.
well, I haven't answered the dog
Oh,
question.
okay,
But no,
dog
go
question.
ahead.
Go
Answer,
ahead,
answer
yeah,
that
yeah.
first. We'll come back to the dog question.
Oh, I mean, I think either is fine, but I am like I'm convinced that whatever you name your dog, I mean, there's associations that come with your dog. Like
Yeah.
we named our dog, one of our dogs, Parker. And the meaning of Parker was like park keeper. And that dog barked and barked
When
at
he heard a sound.
anything, at the fence. I mean, the kid just roamed the fence and he would bark.
He was
at-
the keeper of
yes,
our
he
yard.
was the
Wow.
keeper of our yard. So, I don't know.
That's crazy.
I'm under the persuasion, like, even though we had very common, boring names for our dogs, Bailey and Parker, like, I always wanted to be like Apache.
Yeah.
Because I would never name one of my
Right.
kids Apache. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? Be like, here, Apache. Yeah, I mean, something just kind of like,
Crazy, for
you know,
sure.
Thunderdome, or
Right.
something like that. You can't call a kid. And maybe I should start calling one of our kids Thunderdome. But I mean, I just feel
Samuel
like, I feel like
Thunderdome Carver.
isn't
Good call,
that
Christian
great?
Apache.
I feel like
Yeah.
dogs is a great time to get like experimental
Right.
and creative and
Yeah.
fun with names. It always kind of triggers me when someone names their kid like something I can't even.
Apache.
Yes, yes. If I ever meet an Apache, I'll be like, "Oh
I'm
man,
sure
your
you
parents really
will.
wanted a dog."
Yeah, so I guess I'm kind of under the same persuasion. I mean, again, I feel like my dogs have. We got Layla and we have Vlad, which
Vlad's a cool name.
technically those are both human names, but I feel like they're not common human
Yeah.
names. Layla probably a little bit more so, but I feel like if I were to name my dog Robert, like that'd just be really weird. Like, come on, Robert, Robert, get out there and pee. I'm trying to get inside to go to bed.
It would
Go
be
get the
such
stick,
an old
Robert.
man dog. It'd
Right.
Be like,
Oh wow.
I'm not calling
It
you an
would-
old man,
it would
but
be,
you know what I
though.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
Robert is such an old man.
I'm crabby. I'm
Like,
a crabby
oh
old
my
guy.
Gosh.
Like,
But you know what I'm
let me
saying?
nap.
Like, it's like I feel like you can name your dog human names, but if you're gonna name it like a very common name, like that's when you're like, you're really trying to like make a friend person relationship out of this dog. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
hey Frank, how was
Yeah.
your day? You know, like,
Come here, Frank.
yeah, I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's whatever floats your boat. Name your dog whatever you want to name.
So
your
I
dog.
guess there are more like not to degrade, but more human names.
Yeah, I think
like
so.
Vlad is not really something I would name a kid.
Right.
But it is a cool name.
It is a cool, and if you're in Russia, there's probably
Or the
Vlad.
Czech
Right.
Republic. Yeah,
so-
Vlad's everywhere.
Right. So, like in the area of where we live, of Madison, Alabama, I have never met a Vlad.
Right.
So,
I don't think I have either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But it's also common in Kylene's family to name their dogs Russian names.
Really?
So that's where Vlad came from. Layla was just like this oddball. I don't know how that happened. I don't know how Kylene landed on that. But,
Yeah.
So like we have Vlad. Her sister has Luna and Lev. So those are like also like Russian
Yeah,
names.
Lev,
And
definitely.
then they've had. Their family has had Yeager, and this one is the third Yeager. They have named 3 dogs Yeager.
I mean,
All
yeah.
right.
Is it the same dog? It's like same
it's a
breed.
yellow lab. So every time it's
it's
Yeager.
just living on.
Yeager and Yeager and Yeager. And then they had They have Alieska. So it's I don't know. But
Those
her
are some
dad
crazy. See, those are good dog names.
right? But her dad was or is like a Russian linguist.
Spy.
Spy. Yeah, he works for the Navy or was in the Navy, and so he had a focus in Russian linguistics, and so he kind of had like a connection there. So
Gotcha.
that's kind of how that happened.
See, Rach and I have talked about it. Both of our dogs have since passed on, and we're just like, if we get new dogs, we can't name them what our dogs' names were because,
Right.
like,
Oh, yeah, I
those
can never
dogs
do
were
that.
so
No way.
They were such individuals that like no Bailey will ever compare to the Bailey we had.
Right.
So it's hard, and even buying we're like we can't buy another chocolate lab. We had the most perfect chocolate lab.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We
Yeah.
can't buy another black lab. We had the most perfect
Right.
black lab, and so I don't know. We go back and forth whether we want a dog or not. And Rachel wants a dog, but I don't want a dog.
Yeah, I thought you guys were gonna get a German Shepherd. That's what I heard.
I mean, we talked about
we
it.
have talked about
Yeah.
it. I don't know. I don't want another kid.
It's a lot of work.
So much work.
Yeah, see, we've decided, because obviously we are dog people.
Yeah.
We love dogs, and so we're just always gonna be dog household. But at the same time, I'm one of those people that I can't just when a dog passes away, I can't just immediately get another
Right.
one. Like Kylene's a little bit different. Like
Yeah.
if a dog passes away, she can get another one in like 2
Bring it
weeks.
home tomorrow.
Yeah, but it's like part of her grieving process. Like that helps her get over it.
Sure.
But me,
Yeah.
it's like I need to just gotta have my time.
Decompress.
But
Right.
summer's going to be the best time to get a dog. So if something were to happen, we got to wait till summer because Kylene's off work. She can help raise
Yeah.
a puppy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with a puppy right now. We have 2 young babies already
Right,
that are
right.
already in diapers and learning
Right.
how to be potty trained. So a puppy just sounds like a nightmare at this time. So we
Yeah.
got to have summer.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And we're not, Rachel and I, we're very much not those people. And there's nothing wrong with this. If you are of this persuasion, we don't just buy animals and throw them in the backyard and just
Right.
leave them
Right.
out there.
Exactly.
I had a friend that they did that. And I was like, that's like a that's how you treat farm animals. You know what I mean? I
Right.
put a cow out in the field and let it roam.
Exactly.
But like a dog is like a member of our family. Like they sleep in our room.
Oh, yeah.
and, like,
My
they're
dog
on
is
our
in my
couch.
bed.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
So I don't know. Since we go the extra mile and they're like a family member, I feel like we're just not really wanting another family member.
It's a commitment.
It is a
It's a
commitment.
relationship. It's not just a pet.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and since they don't live for like 90 years, it's like devastating when
Yeah.
they like they're only with me for like 10 to 15 years, and then I have to like to have this heartbreak. So
Yeah.
now that I've brought the mood down, let's
Yeah, I'm really sad.
well, we'll go back to this though, real quick. And then we'll move on to today's podcast. But when I pass away, I just want, it doesn't even matter if I'm cremated or if you just roll my body out of a plane. I want to be a part of the Rocky Mountains. Like, just put me, like, fly over to Rocky Mountains and just throw me out, like Weekend
All right,
at Bernie
boys, just
style.
toss 'em out.
Just roll me out of the
gosh.
plane. Let a bear find my corpse or something. I want to be with the Rocky Mountains.
So what you're saying is I gotta around the time, maybe we'll go around at the same time. So this is how it'll
Put
work.
a tree.
You guys
There'll
are
be a
planning
tree.
this.
Yeah.
There'll be a tree seed planted somewhere in the Rockies. Maybe, sure, I'll go there. I don't care. And then Wesley will throw your body out of a plane right on top of my tree.
Well, I'll be
A
holding you as I go.
Or that. So it's like
And you
immediate
guys become
burying.
one.
Yeah,
Wow.
right. It'd be great.
Interesting.
It'd be a team effort.
So weird.
I want
So
you to
weird.
find a nice place in the Rocky Mountains, and I'm talking like dangerous Rocky Mountains. You got to get in there. You got to go deep into the Rocky Mountains where you're not sure if you're coming back out.
So the first time you ever go to the deepest part of the
Right.
Rocky Mountains.
find a nice
excited.
find a nice rock or something and just make it my monument.
It's too cold there.
Oh my gosh, there's one thing I'm asking for. But so how do you want to?
How do I want to be disposed of?
Yes. What's your preferred method? You guys never talked about this?
I
No,
don't think
we
we have.
have.
we? Yeah. You want the ocean, right?
Yeah, cremation. Throw me in the
Yeah.
ocean.
Yeah.
Bye.
Fish food.
Yeah. So then she can be fish poo.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I'll live on
Circle of
forever.
life.
Yeah, circle of
I'll be a
life.
coral reef.
Coral
Ooh,
reef.
cool.
Beautiful boo. The coral reef boo.
I don't know that that's how that
I don't
works,
know.
but
I don't know how any of it works. It's fine.
Do you have a specific ocean? Like, you can't drop me over to Smoky Mountains or over to Appalachian Mountains. I want to be dropped over to Rocky Mountains. Do you have a specific ocean?
That would be so funny if we.
Well, you guys
took
seem to like
the
death
Smoky
Come back.
Mountains.
I'd haunt anybody who messes this up. I will haunt you.
So good. I don't know.
You guys
I
go to
don't
Destin
care.
a lot,
We
though,
do go
right?
to
So
Destin a
maybe
lot.
just go sprinkle her in that water a little
Maybe
bit.
when the kids go on vacation, they can take me with them.
Oh, gosh. Just a little bit at a time. Each
yeah, like
year,
a little
teaspoon.
salt shaker
Right.
of.
See you,
Mom,
Mom.
have fun.
It's like pouring one out for your mother. You know what I mean? Just
Oh my gosh, that's so good.
But I don't know. Rachel and I have decided that we're full blown going notebook status.
Oh, we are going. We're going
Yeah.
together. So
Yeah, we're just gonna lay down,
Fall
cuddling,
asleep.
and then we
Just
don't
go.
wake up, and then Samuel and Christian are just gonna have to find us.
Oh my god.
I feel like that'd be so devastating. There's no good way to
There
go.
isn't.
There's not.
It's
I mean,
hard.
obviously.
Anybody that's listened to this and you've lost a loved one, we are not trying to be
Yeah.
offensive. We know that it is a tragic time.
Yeah.
We are grateful that we have salvation. So we know anyone that we lose that is born again, they
Yeah.
are in our future, not in our past only. So we're not making little of it.
Sure.
We're just I think the one of my defense mechanism when it comes to serious things is make
Humor.
jokes.
Yeah, I mean,
Sure.
obviously.
And so death is very real. It's a very challenging obstacle that we have to overcome in life. But that's why Rachel and I, we've just decided we're not doing life without each other. And so if you don't know what The Notebook is, it's a movie, and the old couple, they fall in love when they're very young. They get old. Spoiler alert. So if you haven't seen it, plug your ears. But at the end of
Granted,
the
it's
movie...
been like 20
I
years
was
at
gonna
this
say,
point.
yeah, it's
yeah.
an old movie, but it's a good one. And they just lay down at the end of the movie as an old couple, and they just go on into glory. And that's it.
Yeah, it's
The end.
so
The end.
cute,
Yeah.
so sweet,
So sweet.
so sweet. All right. Well, if you're still with us, hopefully you got some good dog talk today and
Right.
some death talk.
Yeah, plan your future, kids. Figure out, you know what I mean?
So if you were with us last week, we talked, we had a question that was sent to me. At this point, I have responded to that person on a personal level, so they aren't waiting 6 weeks for the response anymore. So you can
said
rest in
anymore.
that. But we talked about how to find happiness in Jesus, but they also had another question, and so at that point, we had already gone like 30 minutes
Yeah, it was
talking about
long.
it,
It
so
was
we
good,
didn't want
though.
to get into it because I had a feeling it would go at least another 15 to 20. So
Yeah.
the question that we have today, or really, I guess more of a comment or that they threw out to me.
I don't know what that is. Potty head.
But basically, so a lot of times when we pray for people when it comes to service, and I know that I feel like we've all kind of experienced this, that I feel like the Lord kind of reveals things to us, when we pray for certain
Sure.
individuals. And so a lot of times, like I remember when we prayed with these people, our students, these people, these distant figures, these students, I feel like there's things that we've seen. And so like a lot of times it's like especially with this person, they said, you told me I had a calling. And so like when I was praying for them, I talked about this calling. I didn't go into depth because for one, I don't know all of it. I don't know
Sure.
everything,
Right.
but I saw something. And at the same time, I don't feel like it's my job to tell them exactly what it is because I don't want to steer them in a way that could possibly derail their future or whatever, anything like that. But it's also not my place
Sure.
to divulge that to them or whatever. But anyway, so they said, you told me I have a calling, you big jerk. I'm just kidding. But they said, I really want to know what my calling is. I wish I could know so I could start doing it. I want to serve the Lord and do what he wants me to do, but I don't really know what to do.
First of all, let me stop you right there.
Yeah.
Love the heart of the individual.
Yeah, it's so
That
good.
is fantastic.
Yeah,
Good for
absolutely.
you for wanting to serve the Lord and for wanting to fulfill whatever call you feel he's put on your
Exactly.
life.
Yeah.
Keep that mentality. Keep that desire. That is fantastic.
And honestly, that's probably you can stop listening right now.
Yeah,
That's the
The
best piece of
end.
advice right there is at least want and strive to do it,
Right.
and make sure you pursue that. But then following up to that, I have 3 different career paths to follow with. And I don't know which one will be the best for me to live in him. I just wish I knew what he wanted me to do. Thoughts?
Yeah, you might need to keep your phone open because you're going to have to reread that a couple times in case I forget. So, Boo, do you want to start? You got any thoughts? Read it again.
I know. No, I think the first step to knowing your path is just following God.
Yeah.
What is it? Proverbs 3. It says, "Follow God with all your heart,
Right.
and He'll make your path straight."
Yeah.
So, step 1 is to just run after God and keep running after God.
Yeah.
And He'll reveal to you whatever it is.
Exactly. And I think, I feel like it was on like the pilot episode that we talked about this. A lot of the things that like I think about is we get so focused on like what is the call that we stress
Right.
so much about it. And I think if you focus on that right there of just like trusting God and just pursuing God, I think everything else is going to line up. And you might not have all the answers right now, but you're going to get that bit by bit,
Right.
piece by piece.
Yeah.
And I even mentioned it last night in the message at the time of recording this, because we have an outreach that's coming up, and there's people that, I believe that's a part of all of our call is to do some form of outreach to evangelize to people, to
Right.
share Jesus with people. So no matter what, if you don't know what your calling is, if you don't know what your purpose is, I can tell you this, and I can promise you this, is that God's passion is people.
Yeah.
So
Right,
at
for
the
sure.
end of the day, your purpose, your passion has to involve people to
Somehow.
some degree.
Yeah,
So
that's a good point.
The greatest advice that Jesus gave us was to love God with all your heart and
Yeah.
then to love people as you would love yourself. And so how do you want to be loved? Well, I would want someone to love me, to encourage me, to inspire me, to strengthen me, to equip me. And so I feel like that's a good start is to love God,
Yeah.
pursue God,
Right.
serve God, and be passionate about people. I heard a minister say, he was talking to young ministers on like how to be a better minister, and he was like, love people more than you love preaching. And he's like, and that will come out in your messages.
Yeah.
Like that's just so good is like focus on the people.
Yeah.
Don't focus on that because everything else will come later.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's just it's such a huge question.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's so many different details that we could go into. So I'm just going to give a few highlights, and this is not throwing any shade at Cody because I believe he hears from God and he knows the voice of God. But I do want to start here when it comes to God's plan for our life. We have to make sure that we don't let men shape that plan.
Right.
We don't let women shape that plan. We don't let a prophet or a minister or even a pastor. The plan of God is something that we discover for our life, for
Right.
ourselves. And at the end of the day, you've got to know that God has called you. Now, God
Right.
can use Cody to confirm something that's in someone's heart. He can use me or even Rachel or any minister to confirm
Right.
something. But we never run after something because man has told us to.
Right.
So I think that needs to be the starting point.
Yeah.
You need to know that God has called you to ministry, to something, because there are many callings, right?
Yeah.
You could be called to be a lawyer. You could be called to be a doctor. You could be called to be an engineer. You could be called to be a janitor, a teacher. I believe, whatever God has put you on this planet to do, that is your calling.
Yeah.
Right.
But if it's fivefold ministry gift that you're feeling called to, whether it's youth ministry, pastor, evangelist, the fivefold ministry gifts, or whatever the call might be, I think the only way people truly stick with their call is if they know God told them to do
Right.
it. Because anytime you start something, you're going to run into difficulties. I heard, you quoted a minister. I heard a minister the other day he said, make no mistake about it. Whenever somebody rises up to build something for God, people will always rise up to destroy what's being built. And so whenever you begin to pursue what you feel God's called you to do, there's going to always be opposition to that call,
Right.
whether it is a lawyer, whether it is a preacher, whatever that call is. And the only way to be able to push through that opposition is to know that you're doing what God
Right.
told you to do.
Yeah.
That somehow that gives us the inner strength to be
Right.
like, okay, no matter what this opposition is I'm facing, whether it's internal opposition, whether it's external opposition, I'm going to be able to push through because I'm on the path that God has called for me.
Right.
And Rachel and I have done that in 18 years of ministry, and I'm sure you've had to do that at times. Whenever opposition has come
Right.
up, we always go back to, we're doing what God told us to do.
Yeah.
And since we're doing what God told us to do, we're able to push through, right? And so, and we did say this in the pilot, episode of the podcast, the podhead, whatever we're calling this, is that, you just really don't be so concerned about something it's balance.
Yeah.
I'm not so concerned about what God's called me to do that I'm missing the very moment I'm living in right now.
Exactly.
I don't know what particular grade this individual is in that submitted it, but don't get so focused on what you're going to be doing 5 years from now. Now, it's good to have a plan, and it's
Right.
good to know.
Good to have goals. Good to have desires.
But don't miss what God's doing right now. What are you
Exactly.
involved with right now? Give your heart to that. Give your dedication to that. Give your commitment to that, and do that to the best of your ability. And like Rachel said, as you trust in the Lord and you do Proverbs 3, He'll show you the next step when the
Right.
time is right. I think sometimes we try to get out ahead of God, but maybe He's just asked you to do something in your local church right now, and you're doing it, whatever that may be, whether it's helping them, run sound or singing on the praise and worship team. And as you put your hand to that,
that's
and
good.
you faithfully do that, and you serve God in that capacity, when that season comes to a close, He's going to show you the next step. He's a good Father in that way.
Yeah.
He reveals His plans to us, but sometimes He doesn't reveal what is next until the appropriate time because He doesn't want us to jump over what we're supposed to be
Right.
doing right now. He could have showed me. I didn't know I was supposed to be a youth pastor. I just knew I was supposed to go to Bible college. And so I went to Bible college. And then when I was at Bible college, the last month of Bible school, He showed me He wanted me to be a youth pastor. See, He does things in order. And I think if He would have showed me to be a youth pastor, maybe I would have jumped the Bible college.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So He showed me in steps. I want you to go to Bible school. So I went to, and he showed me that when I was in 9th grade. I remember telling my dad about it. And the reason I told my dad about it, the Lord, inspired me to do so. And that's because after I graduated high school and I kind of lost my way, my dad came to me. He's like, remember in 9th grade when you told me you're supposed to go to Bible school? And I was like, oh, yeah.
What
it's a
are you
good reminder."
doing?
Exactly. And it served as a good reminder. And so He put that in my heart. And it wasn't until I achieved that
Yeah.
and fulfilled that part of my call and that part of my life, that part of my mission, that God revealed the next step. And because there was training that I got at Bible school that I needed to get, even
Right.
natural training. I was a supervisor of a workforce of like 5 to 10 people. And now in my job here at the church, I'm a supervisor of 5 to 10 people. And so I got training there. And so I had to do the first step first.
Yeah.
So, even though you're not in your career and you're not in the fullness of your call, what's He called you to do right now? Give your attention to that, do it faithfully, do it diligently, and that's practice for you to do the next step.
Right.
And
Right.
then He'll show you the next step at the right time.
So good.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think if this person has maybe 3 paths that they're considering, I think you look for hints in every single one of those paths. Do I really, what do I really enjoy doing?
Yeah.
Volunteer. If any of the paths you can volunteer in those
Right,
paths.
that's true.
Right.
Is my heart really here? Do I really enjoy this? Could I see myself doing it? And like you kind of said, volunteering at church or with organizations and figuring out, again, do I really love this? Could I see myself doing this forever? And you're going to find out when you put your hand to something and you start volunteering, you're going to find, I really have a heart for this. Ooh, I really don't like this. So
That's actually good advice. I know we're all spoiled now, but back in the day, they didn't have power steering. And my dad always had this in a car. My dad always had this expression. He said it's really hard to steer a car that's not moving.
right.
Because without power steering, if the car's moving, it's easier to turn the wheel. And so that's great advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just get the ball moving. You start moving forward and you start pursuing.
Yeah, you have to start somewhere.
Yeah, and you start, and it's like that old expression, how do you walk a mile? One step at a time,
Right.
And so you just start going, and if you start going that direction and it doesn't seem right and it doesn't feel right, then you just kind of pull back and you say, okay, I went this direction.
Right.
Somebody said this once, and I'm going to paraphrase it. I'm probably going to butcher it, but they said, following God is wow. See, I can't even remember.
So I wonder if this is where you're going to go, because one of the things that I answered to this person, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't want to just read off a thing here, but I feel like I learned it from you. I don't remember if I learned it from you.
If it's good, then definitely.
Yes.
If it's bad, you learn it from someone else.
But I told them that like one of the things that I learned very early on when it came to like following the Holy Spirit was almost like this red light, green light system.
Yes.
And I don't remember if it was from
That's
you.
for me.
Maybe
Yeah,
it
definitely.
was.
I've told many
Robert
people
says that
this.
all the time.
But it's something that I have definitely used a lot, and even Kylene's used it now. Cause I told
Yeah.
her, it's just like
See?
something I tell a lot of people about it because to me it was very helpful in the beginning. And so
Right.
like someone like this, and even myself, I had a lot of things that I wanted to do at the beginning of my my early years of figuring out what my life was going to be. And I said, start similar to like what you guys are saying, start a direction somewhere,
Yeah.
make a decision, just try it, feel it out. And if you don't feel like this hesitancy or this uncomfortableness, and now obviously there's going to be some level of anxiety about it or
Right.
whatever, because
Sure.
there's
It's
going
new.
to, it's new, it's different. But at the same time, if it doesn't feel any peace about it, like if you don't have peace about the decision that you're
Sure,
making, it's
sure.
kind of like a yellow light or a red light when you're coming up to an intersection. Like you should probably stop and reevaluate. Do I keep going, or you got to wait or whatever? But if you have peace about it, that's a green light and you just go. And you just keep going until the light changes.
Right.
And like I've kind of lived that way, at
Yep.
least when it comes to learning how to follow the Holy Spirit. Like if I don't have hesitancy in my heart, or if I have peace about it, like I just go for it.
Yeah, because for me, and where that stems from, and I've taught a lot of people that very thing. I had somebody ask me, the church is going on this missions trip, and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to go. And I just told them, I assume every light is a green light.
Yeah.
Because it's easy for me to discern that discomfort, that knot in my stomach. And we've all been there when we make a bad decision
sure.
or we're about to make a bad decision. The inner
For sure.
turmoil
Yeah,
that you
you definitely
have.
know.
That's such an easy gauge. It's so easy for me to sense that. And so that is the Lord being like, you probably shouldn't do this, And so I assume every light is a green light, and I just run after it. That's how I got here.
Yeah.
That's how Rachel got here.
Yeah, right.
And I think too that like, even if it's a green light and it might not even be directed to your calling, like God can still use it later on.
Right,
like,
that's right.
Right.
When Kylene was trying to figure out her career path before she went to school to be a teacher, she was like, I kind of feel like I want to do hair. I'm not really sure about it.
Sure.
And, we had this big conversation about it, and that's when we kind of had the green light, red light conversation at
Yep.
that time too. But I was like, what's the big deal if you spend
Right.
12 months to go to
Right.
hair school, and then you do it, and then you have this extra certification
Yeah.
and this
Yeah.
skill set, and then you can always go to school to be a teacher. Like, especially when it comes to something like that, it's like education is always available, at least at this point in time. Like,
Right.
you can always go back to school. I think that's what it's so bad is people are like, well, if I don't graduate college by the time I'm 21, I'm considered a failure. Well, no, it took Kylene 7-8 years to get her teaching degree,
Right.
and she is boss at it and super successful. And if you compare to other people, I feel like she's one of the best teachers ever. So
Sure.
that mentality's stupid. Like, don't compare yourself to others. Do your plan that God has called you to do, and do it at the pace that you feel like you're supposed to do it. Obviously go to God about it and try to do the best that you can working with him. But at the same time, don't worry about how long it takes you. Just take it a day at a time. Just go for it.
For sure.
Yeah, and I feel like I was talking to one student, this was back at the other building, and this student's now living in a different country, just pursuing God and what they feel like God's called them to do. But they had so much anxiety of like, what if this is the wrong step? And I just remember telling them, what if it is?
Yeah.
Like, what's the big deal? You know what I mean? As long as it's not a sinful endeavor, it's
Yeah.
not a wrong endeavor. The only way it's a wrong endeavor is if you blatantly know God told me not
Yeah.
to do this,
Right.
and you push through that and you do it anyways. Then
Right.
it's wrong, But I think sometimes we just get so stressed out. What if I make this move and it's the wrong move? Well, first of all, there's many things that I would say to combat that. Number one, God is not harsh.
Yeah.
He's a merciful God. He's a good God. And if you do something with the right heart and it ends up being wrong, he's still going to reward you because your intentions were right, your heart was right. So we make these decisions really weighty when they shouldn't be. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, even moving here to Alabama from Colorado, and you moving here, and I'm talking to Rachel, because Cody, you know, he's always been here.
I've lived here forever.
No challenges for him. It's super easy. He didn't have to go anywhere. No, I'm kidding. We're better than you. No, I'm kidding. But, you know, and Rachel's even better than me. She moved here with no guarantees other than God. At least I had a job.
I really did.
You know what I mean? She just was in Indiana, and I should probably let her tell because it'd be more powerful. So you tell it. But
what am I supposed to tell?
I don't know. Anyways.
What story?
But, you know, even like me moving here from Colorado to Alabama, if it was wrong, what's the big deal? I'm moving to Alabama to serve the Lord, to try to make a difference in people's lives and to make a difference for the kingdom of God. If that's wrong, then God just redirects my path to ultimately get me where he needs me to go.
Right.
I think sometimes that it's a tactic. I don't want to give the devil too much credit, but we get so afraid of making a misstep or the wrong step that we take no steps.
Yeah,
Right.
and see, it talks about in Peter about how the devil comes around as a roaring lion. And I feel like that's so very good and being very descriptive because a lion comes to stun and scare you with a roar and to get you to not move or to run away. And I think that's what the devil wants. He either wants you to pause and be in fear to where you're doing nothing so you're ineffective from God, or he gets you to run away from the plan of God. That, I mean, obviously he's not going to cheer you on in God, but that's what that'd be really interesting dynamic there. But you know, I wish. But you know, that's the point of that's what the devil wants, is he either wants you to freeze or he wants you to run away. And so that's exactly like it. You just need to go. You just got to do.
See, what was your mentality when you left Indiana to come to Alabama? Were you just like, this is gonna work, or I mean, you know, how'd you push through that?
I mean, I was just like, well, I feel like God has told me to do this. I'm gonna give it a shot. My thing was, I'm either going to try this and fail, or I can not try it and regret it the rest of my life. What would have happened if I would have listened to God? You know?
Yeah.
Or I try it and it's a success, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, choose your path.
Right.
And I think there's such a fear of failure that we just play it safe sometimes. You know, and we know this as ministers, you know, like when God gives you prophetic unction or something to say, like even in this situation, it's always in the back of our minds, right? What if this isn't right? What if I say something that's totally going to mess up somebody's life? That's why I gave the caveat at the beginning, you know what I mean? That's
why I try not to be super specific, but also I sometimes don't know all the specifics.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
And it's up to the individual. Like when Cody was speaking that over you, if it bore witness, then you grab a hold of it and you fight with it. And you war a good warfare with it. But if it doesn't bear any witness with you, you just put it up on the shelf and maybe grab it away some other time. But you know what's if we fail, we say this: we would rather fail trying than to not try at all.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? And God doesn't let his people fail. You know what I mean? No matter what you do, as long as it's like I said, as long as it's not a sinful endeavor, no matter what you do, God's always going to be able to teach you something. He's always going to be able to show you something. He's always going to be able to improve who you are, and he's going to be able to grow you some way, somehow, to get you ultimately to where you need to be.
Yep.
But that individual that I was referencing to that's now living overseas, they felt like they were supposed to do that. And so they just YOLO'd and jumped in both feet. And it was the exact right thing to do. And they're living overseas today and they love it. They're having a great time. You know what I mean? But just imagine if they would have been like, well, what if this wrong? So they just played it safe and stayed home. They'd be miserable today because they never took that leap of faith. And I think that's what it is sometimes. You know, that's the nail on the head. It's faith.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what, you know, we have to do is the just, they live by faith. And so what is faith? Well, it's not having all the answers, but I believe, right? And I'm fully persuaded this is what I'm supposed to do, so I'm going to do it. And it's going to work out in the end because God's good.
So good.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, and then like what Rachel said, I just want to bring that back around. You know, you said that there's possible 3 things that you're interested in. Well, I don't know what grade you're in, but, you know, see if there's an internship out there for one of them and start pursuing it. And if it doesn't feel right and you don't like it, then throw it away and pursue something else. I mean, because you went to college for what? To be a lawyer's apprentice. What is that called? Paralegal.
Yes, a paralegal, yeah.
So
lawyer's apprentice.
lawyers, same thing, same.
Same, you know.
So she went to college to be a paralegal, and you did that somewhat when you moved here a little bit, but
Yes.
ultimately it's not what you're doing today.
I hated it. Lesson learned.
Yeah, but that's good. At least if you would have never pursued it, at
Right.
least to some degree, you wouldn't
Right.
have known that you hated it.
Right.
Right.
And now you might be looking back being like, well, should have I done this? But now you know.
Right, exactly. But also with that, even though, listen, I took that side journey helped me. It provided a job for me.
Right.
For
Yeah.
years until I could do this.
Right.
Right.
So, I mean, it was a blessing.
Yeah.
Even though ultimately it wasn't what I was
Sure.
bound to do. It was still a blessing.
And I'm
Right.
sure, and you might not even directly know it, but there's probably things that you picked up at that job that
Oh,
you
for
probably
sure.
still use today,
For sure.
consciously and unconsciously
Yeah.
or subconsciously, whatever. You know,
Yeah.
like while you're sleeping. But you know what I'm saying? Like there's things that you pick up from your different career paths or even just personal endeavors that
Right.
maybe you feel led or even maybe didn't feel led to do, you just went for, that God uses in your current situation today, because that's just who God is. He
Right.
turns it,
Yeah.
he makes it
God
part of your
can
plan.
use any little thing that
Yeah.
you've learned along your way.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. And I will even say this, and not to put the individual on the spot, but Cody has shared with me who they are. So I know a little bit of insight, and I know what they're doing at the youth group right now. And they have a wonderful opportunity to but to learn the flows. And, I would encourage them on a Wednesday night that when there's an unction there, that they step out, that they just, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, I don't know if I'm supposed to do this, and they step out and they do it, and they can learn in real time what it's like to follow God in something that they're a little unsure about.
Yeah.
And I'm keeping it vague on purpose, but since I know who the individual is, look forward to a conversation coming soon. But I think that's, it's one of those things. You learn the flows of God,
Yeah.
and the only way to learn something is by doing.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's how you and I have gotten comfortable as ministers. That's how Rachel's gotten comfortable as a minister, by being able to step out and say things that God
Right.
deals with us about an individual with fear and trembling. At the
Right,
beginning, it
right.
was a lot more difficult than it is
Yeah.
now, but we have years of experience, years of doing,
Yeah.
to where now when God says, okay, say something to so-and-so, it's just like, all right, easy,
Yeah.
done.
Right, for
well,
sure.
I mean, even with the scripture of you can't be faithful with much until you're faithful with
Right.
little. And I think I
Right.
said that backwards, but whatever.
We understand.
Cody translation. But you've got to learn how to follow God in the little things before you can follow God in the big things. So I think it all comes back to what we've been saying this whole time.
Yeah.
Take it day by day. Take
Yeah.
it to start now.
Yeah.
Start with what God's got on your plate in this moment, and then the next moment's going to come. The next day is going to come. The
Right.
next year is going to come. All those things are going to fall into place.
So I've got good news and I've got bad news. I'll start with the bad news first. We have no silver bullet for you. We have nothing to say, this is exactly how you do it. This is exactly how you know. This is exactly how you get it right the first time, every time. We don't have a silver bullet for you.
Yeah.
All we can share is our life experiences. So that's the bad news, right? There's no easy answer. But there is good news. If you genuinely pursue God and your intent is pure,
Yeah.
and your desire is clean, you're not going to mess up.
Yep.
Right.
So don't let it get weighty.
Yep.
Don't let it be overbearing and produce a lot of
Yep.
anxiety. Just be like, you know what? I can do this. And we say that too. God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the call. So what are we saying? You already have all the qualifications you need.
Right.
God made you, he knows you, he gave you the gifts and
Right.
the talents and abilities that you need to fulfill your call. You've got the goods. So don't worry about that. Just start taking these steps forward and start pursuing things.
Right.
And be looking for that red light. Oh, this one feels really uncomfortable. I know I'm not supposed to do it. And then you pull back and you start going another direction. It's
And
that
even
easy.
that light might come back around. Maybe it's
It's true.
something's like you start pursuing it and you're like, that feels wrong. I'm going to cut that off, but maybe not cut it off altogether. Maybe
Yeah.
it might be something you're supposed to pursue at another time. So that interest or that desire that you see on your plate right now, and you're like, well, these other two feel wrong right now, so I'm going to pursue this. Maybe 5-10 years from now, that desire, that pursuit might come back around. So just, if you have that desire in your heart, maybe it's there for a reason.
Yeah.
But don't stress out about it.
Right.
Yeah, and it's interesting how God gives us these talents and these abilities. Like with Rachel being a paralegal, I'm not exactly sure what they do, but I'm pretty sure it's administrative stuff.
Yes.
They paralyze legal documents.
Exactly. They cripple them. And so, but God put that in her And at the beginning, she thought maybe it was to do as a paralegal, but then she ended up doing that as the youth ministry administrator for years. So, you know, it was already in her. I remember when I lived in Colorado, I wanted to be a ski instructor. I wanted to teach people how to ski. And
Now you do that every Wednesday.
Right. And so what, yeah, exactly. The teaching part of me was always a part of me, right? The teaching people how to do. That was always a part.
Right.
And I was just trying to channel it, you know, in something that I wanted to do.
Right.
Right. I want to ski because skiing's fun. But that part of me was always in there. And so whatever that is in you, he's put it in there for a purpose and for a reason. And so just be looking for it. It's not always something natural. Sometimes it's for, you know, supernatural use and for the kingdom of God, as all things are. So you got this, though.
You got this.
You got it.
Anyone got any closing wrap-up comments? Or
We're getting a dog and we're calling it Apache.
here's what I want. I want next week, I want you to preach a message. This is the Lord.
All right. Okay. Wow.
You need to preach a message and use ski equipment, and you need to teach everyone how to ski and how it relates to pursuing Jesus.
Challenge accepted. Challenge. I got the ski. I'm coming full
let's
gear.
talk about that time. And I think Cody was with us when we went skiing.
Oh, up in Virginia?
Yes,
Yeah.
in Virginia.
Or was it West Virginia?
I don't know. One of
that
somewhere,
fake snow.
somewhere over there. Fake. Now, how patient and teaching
Oh my
were
God,
you?
I'm not. I get that from my dad when it comes to like that.
Robert was like, "See you never, guys."
Hasta Nuka. But that's, you know.
I mean, so you would have never made it as a ski instructor.
You're
would have
right. I
gotten
would have been so frustrated. I'd have been beating kids with my ski pole.
Like
Why
Rob's
don't
just like,
you get
I just want to
this?
ski. Can't you just ski with me?
Exactly. Follow me, kid.
But, you know, it's amazing. 19 years of doing this. You want me to teach using ski equipment? Challenge accepted, man. Next week, ski equipment. Here it is. And it's so easy because it's all about balance and it's all about having things in the right place at the right time. Otherwise, you're not going to make it down the hill safely.
Look at that.
Right.
I'm bringing my skis and my ski poles and my ski jacket and my ski goggles. We're going full send with it. It's happening, man. Wow, how come I've never realized that I have an illustration sitting in my garage? Ski equipment. Nailed it.
So good. Well, hopefully this individual got some answers today, and maybe if you were not the individual that got this, I do believe that this is probably something that a lot of people have kind of rolling around in their heart and in their head. I know as a teenager, and probably even some people that are even adults now are sometimes like, what do I want to be when I grow up? You know, like sometimes it's like, I just don't even feel like a grown up. I'm 31 years old and I still feel like a child, you know?
Right.
So I'm
For
sure
sure.
that there's people out there that are still struggling with this, and hopefully you've learned a little bit of something, and maybe you're like, at the very least, I got the green light, red light, right? You know?
Yeah, for sure. And it's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or maybe some ideas about where you want to go after you die.
Yeah. Or what you
I
want to name your
suggest the
dog.
Rocky Mountains. Yeah. What you're naming your dog, where you're going after you die. And
how to know peace.
And how to know peace. Bring it all together.
Great.
I'm putting, if Boo does pass before me, we're putting you in a salt shaker, like 100 little salt shakers, and we're going to take one to the beach each year. And we're going to...
You wouldn't do that. You would get so frustrated and just chuck the whole bottle. And be like, whatever.
Man, she knows me
my
so
gosh.
well. Yeah, she
You wouldn't
does.
be patient enough to do that.
Yeah. All right.
Well, guys, it was year one. Let's just take the box this year and
It's
dump her
fine.
out there.
Dump it out. Let's get it done.
Instead of,
Why put off till tomorrow what I can do today?
So good. All right. We love you guys so much. Thanks for joining us for the Potty Head Pod Talk, We Talk thing. Bye.